What's going
Hey,
on, man? What's
hey,
going
what's
on,
up?
everybody?
What is up? What is
Well,
up? What is up, people?
it's good. It's good to be back, guys, and it's good to do another Carbonite Bounty BS with me and the nerds. It's kind of a special one. This is really, a culmination of, in what people think, George Lucas's greatest vision, his greatest project ever. So glad to be here with you guys. Before we even get into that, let's let DP let you guys let us know where to find us at.
Nerdcyclopedia.com. People, make sure that you are going on our site and clicking on all our links on our or your favorite social media platform at Nerdcyclopedia. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and also on Instagram. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you are hitting that subscribe button and also that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. Leave us some feedback, nerds at nerdcyclopedia.com. We love getting that feedback from you guys. If you are listening to us on your smartphone, on your car, on your way to work or on your way back from work, we're on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast, we are there. And most of all, if you're on Facebook, join our Facebook group. We got that Carbonite Bounty BS Facebook group where you get your favorite memes. You see us live, every time we're coming every Wednesday at 10. And we're just doing it.
Well said, well said. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, this journey we've been on as a team here on the channel, and all the stuff we've covered. I think to go over this original trilogy, if you will, or the original. I mean, we'll just call it Star Wars. I mean, it's been great to really talk about it with you guys, to go over with DP, who was a year ago a resident neutral to basically now
He had no idea. He
he
had
did,
no
you
idea.
know, you know. Fast forward a year later, and he's a resident Star Wars nerd like us. So it's funny.
No.
Who knew? Who knew? But yeah, just kind of getting into the their first thoughts on it. We'll start with you, Tarkin. What was your thoughts here as we discuss our review of Return of the Jedi?
So I started watching this, and the first thing I wanted to get into my mind was this was it. Like when this movie came out, this was the end. This was the there wasn't any Clone Wars, there weren't any comics, there weren't any EU, there was nothing. This was the end. This was the final battle between Luke and Darth Vader. And I remember the thing that actually caught my ear and eye was the revelation that Leia was Luke's sister. I remember watching that in the theater, and I go,
Mind blown.
Because remember, 1983, there was no internet, social media. I mean, you found out things by the newspaper, TV, and people talking, like actual conversations with people. You didn't have rumor mill. You didn't have all this other stuff. So when you learned about the facts, Yoda's dead, Leia's Luke's sister, Darth Vader is Luke's father and Leia's father. I mean, these were all like huge fissures in nerd land. I mean, these were giant revelations that really you couldn't get any other way except sitting in that movie theater for 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Right.
Anyway, all that aside, I wanted to share this with you. I watched it a couple different ways. Okay, Laserdisc. Does everybody know what these are?
He brought out the laser disc. Wow.
So this I watched first. This is just 4:3 ratio. Return of the Jedi, unblemished, untarnished, just the original film. Okay, I watched it this way. You lost some background stuff a little bit. Some of the space battles weren't as good, but still legit copy. Like if you can get this, watch it. This is important. Now, special widescreen edition, 16:9, babes. This was legit. You brought this home and watched it. You were like, damn, on a 24-inch TV. This was it. Okay, this is how you watched it. So I watched it here. And then I watched the Disney version, and I was talking to DP about the Disney version, and maybe Team Mitch, maybe you can help me. So one scene, and I know I'm sort of there was just a lot of things that went through my mind while I was watching this. But the scene where Luke breaks into the Jabba's palace, walks down the stairs. Did you see Sebulba walk across the stairway before Luke got there?
Now that you say that, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it after
There was
this.
a Doug. There was a Doug. It was an
I'll have to check
especially
it.
dangerous Doug. And I know they live a long time, and Anakin didn't kill him in the pod race. And I swear to God, Disney said, well, we have all the money in the world, and we're just going to take our digital version and we're going to put Sebulba in there for no apparent reason, because I never remembered seeing it. So
Yeah,
go back and check that out. Let me know if I've lost my mind, because I could have lost my mind. But
I
right
know.
before Luke
Yeah,
walks down the stairs, Sebulba walks across the stairway.
it's been edited a few times, I believe. There is the edit in the '90s, early 2000s, where I bought the gold and the silver. That was the widescreen and the full screen, like you're saying. I bought
Yep.
those, and then recently, since it's 4K, Disney on the Disney Plus version, I think they re-edited it and refined it again. So
And,
that
and
might be the one you're talking about. They might have done that
and
because
did some stuff. So all that being said, I mean, this kind of, I just want to call it a just a rewatch for me,
right.
and getting back into the basic timeline that this was the end. There wasn't going to be any more. There wasn't any 1, 2, 3. There wasn't any 6, 7, 8, or 7, 8, 9. This was the end of the story. Great movie from the beginning to the end. We saw the Emperor for the first time in the flesh,
In the
or in the
flesh.
decayed flesh,
Yeah.
however you want to call it. You saw Darth Vader like taking real command and being a boss, right? And really inflicting some terror over his people. So I think it was the first time where he was actually not just angry at the rebellion, but he was pissed at his own people because they weren't on schedule. I mean, there were a lot of things, and when your boss wants you to get something done in a certain amount of time and you can't because you don't have the resources, that's legit. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
A lot of things that I harken back to Rogue One when I saw Mon Mothma and the whole original, get the plans for the first Death Star. Well, we learned so much from that battle that this next one, I think we got a leg up. And now we know that they're disadvantaged because they're not done, they're not complete, but they do have this bomb shield that's covering them. So that's the attack. We got to go to Endor, blow up the shield generator, make peace with the Ewoks. Please, let's make peace with the Ewoks. For God's sakes, Hitch ain't here. Jar Jar ain't that bad. Ewoks, on the other hand, look out for those bad boys, because the Ewoks will take you out.
Yeah.
But it's just, I mean, for me, it's a great ending to a great story, a strong, powerful story with a lot of great characters, a great ending, and it really ended. So the end really ended with the funeral of Darth Vader, with the coming together of the gang again in celebration, and then we saw great CG special effects. Obi-Wan, Anakin Skywalker, and Yoda coming back as ghosts, one with the Force. Luke, arms around his sister. His sister? Really? He kissed her. They kissed twice on the lips. So anyway, great revisit to a super story. I loved it. And that's, I mean, it's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Of course.
you knew it was going to be a 10 out of 10.
Of course, yeah.
That's a mandatory thing right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll off mic. I was talking with Ken, and I'm really, it's better than I remember. So I haven't seen this movie in a while, and as I'm watching this, I'm knowing I'm gonna like the New Hope and Empire Strikes Back and everything. So Return of the Jedi for me was like, all right, so I know I'm gonna get some good resolution, with like Luke and his father. But I'm gonna get Ewoks all I kept thinking was Ewoks, Ewoks, Ewoks. Like half the movie's gonna be spent with Ewoks, and it wasn't that bad. I'm sitting here like, okay, it was much better than I remembered, much better than I've heard. Some people complain about like this was like the weakest part of the trilogy and everything because of the Ewoks and stuff. If you watch them all and binge watch, or just watch them all in like succession, like how we did, it's a really good succinct story from beginning to end. And this particular episode was very, very well plotted. I mean, you understood everybody's motivation, where everybody was going to go, and where the end of the story was going to end up being. So I appreciated that. I mean, sure, like you don't have the greatest of dialogue and everything, but I mean, it was the '70s, and it was what it was and everything. So the thing that struck me the most was that Harrison Ford and General Palpatine, Ian, what is his name?
Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah, Ian McDermott. They probably had the most charisma out of any actors in the movie. So
Lando, don't forget Billy D. Williams.
Yeah. Billy D. Yeah, he did his thing, but not more than like Harrison and McDermott. They both did like just crazy good. Luke, I'll say this about Luke. He's the one, but just to really emote and actually make that character believable in this particular movie was so for me.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed now that we've seen like the Mandalorian. I'm sorry, Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian to a degree, but especially Book of Boba Fett. Those couple episodes, how well they adapted or the make the likeness out of Mark Hamill. How that just it was seamless, because I'm sitting here looking at Luke back then. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. He looks. They did a really excellent job in Book of Boba Fett. With like the likeness and image of Mark Hamill as the younger Luke back then. With his all black garb and everything. I love the black garb and all that. Love the fight scenes between him and Darth Vader. Those were excellent. And John Williams came out with the emotional music and everything when it came to like Rising and before Darth got his hand taken off. The ending for me was better than I expected. It sort of actually had me a little emotional, because I'm like, wow, this is, well, maybe they had me emotional because I watched all these Clone Wars, Rebels, and now we're seeing like, okay, this is the end. The Empire has been defeated, because I've been against the Empire for so long, ever since Phantom Menace. All the way right to up till now, after spending so much time in this universe, finally, the Empire, has been defeated. The Emperor is gone, as we know for right now. But it's everybody was partying at the end. We've seen all these flip to different geographical settings, and everybody was just happy, which was really great to see, out of this. Me coming from, like I said, where I came from, and watching all this stuff, in the universe and everything, it really resonated with me. And then at the end, of course, you get the very thing, and you get like the Anakin, Obi-Wan, and also Yoda right there. That just capped it off. That was just like, wow, this. If it had to end, if Star Wars had to end right here, it was a very good ending. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I echo what both you guys said. I mean, it definitely wasn't the best kind of way to end a trilogy, but it had its points. I mean, the sequencing in it I thought was great. It was and the thing about all three of these movies were, as we discussed this so many times, so many directors have a hard time making a movie from start to finish, let alone a trilogy. In each of these movies, literally, you can watch for a solo film and rate it. And I think that's the biggest problem we have with Star Wars is these last, these sequel trilogies and in these post sequel trilogies, if you will, or prequels. When they make these stories so stretched out, they don't have an ending in the beginning. So even when we rate these, and I feel as if Marvel kind of their whole universe. Sometimes they get it wrong, but these movies nowadays you can't watch as a standalone film. So when we rate these and we get to the sequel trilogy again, as harsh as it is, like it's hard to rate this movie as an individual movie because they don't really have that finite beginning, middle, and end. The ending is kind of like it's rushed or it's too open or it's too open for interpretation. With these movies here, I mean, like, we discussed each one of them to in length. They have like your beginning, your middle, and a solid ending that you can be like, man, you can go in this as a neutral, as DP would say, and watch it and just watch the film as a film itself. Looking back at the prequels, I really don't think I can watch one of them and be like, oh, like, and catch on, you know what I mean, as we watch these.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it just goes back to storytelling 101 and where we've went, fast forward this to now. I mean, as we see these correctional rewrites in these Disney Plus series and even the Clone Wars and stuff we went over, it seems like it's getting back to the roots of things. But yeah, I mean, what a phenomenal way to end what we thought of the end of Star Wars, the most in most people's eyes.
Yeah, and think about it, like what you said, T. Mitch, like the prequel. The only one that you could watch as just a single movie is Phantom Menace
Right.
because it did have
oh yeah,
Yeah.
a beginning and then it had an end, and it was thematic,
Right.
and I think that was because Lucas was in it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's before he got real sick. Because the
yeah,
last two, he was kind of like iffy with the.
yeah, he was it. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it just like Phantom Menace would be the only one of the prequels that you could watch just as a single film and be
Right.
like, okay, that was okay. I liked it or I hated it.
Right.
I don't like Jar Jar. I do like Jar Jar. So
yeah,
who knows? But that was the only one that really had that sort of thematic, like what we're used to, the conflict and the battle, and then the end and the celebration. Um, and the one, so in Return of the Jedi, so I was watching it and I thought, man, the Sarlacc pit, I cannot wait because now we're going to see that belly fill up, right? We're going to see that belly fill up. How many Weequays went down there? I mean, 5, 6, and Boba Fett. I mean, that sucker was full. Like, and for what, 6, 7 years? I mean, what was the timeline there between Return of the Jedi and Book of Boba Fett?
That's a little bit of time.
And that's what I kept relating back to. Like every time I saw Boba Fett in Return of the Jedi, I thought, man, he's looking at that throne going, how am I going to get that? I'm going to run all this. I'm going to run all this someday. So it was very powerful for me to see that because now it was like new. Like these stories weren't ending. There was going to be more. And I didn't know that back then, but I know that now. So it was like a great revisit for me to see all this stuff, the way Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian really went back and took all the character and took all the set design and took all the themes and really brought them up to the to today so we could connect everything together.
It's a 5 year time jump.
5
So,
years.
so he's in this belly for 5 years, or not necessarily, but at
So
some
that
period of time.
Sarlacc
Belly for
was
5 years. That's crazy. Not now I get it. The Sarlacc pit. I mean, watching that scene, I'm like, nah, I get it.
now you get it because even the special edition, like the Disney Plus version, because in the original, like the first one I showed you guys, the 4.3 version, that Sarlacc was nothing. It wasn't doing anything. There weren't any tentacles. There was no mouth. It was just
Really?
a hole.
What?
Yeah, it was just a hole, and everyone was going down in the hole, and you didn't know what it was. Then in the special edition, they digitized it. They put tentacles in, and they made the tongue come out, and
What? Oh,
yeah. The
wow.
only interaction you had with the Sarlacc was when it had Lando by the leg. That was it. Other than that, you didn't know that thing was nothing. You didn't know what it was. So
That's crazy. That's crazy. How much? See, I can't remember. I don't know the difference. So I'm seeing all this as like fresh eyes and stuff, and it's just seeming all in sync for me. But like I said, I get it, and seeing the Sarlacc pit again, and but Book of Boba Fett, and seeing him escape that, I'm like, okay, that's a great continuation of a story right
Yeah,
there.
you get it because you see what that thing was. It was like,
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But
Um,
yeah, I mean, it's what else with that, the like Harrison Ford, he did his thing in this movie. He was
yeah,
very charismatic, and him thinking, I think at the time he thought this, he really wanted to have his character get killed off, but they
yeah,
never did it, and I could see why. He's a likable, lovable character in the movie
mhm.
and everything. You don't want him to, like, die or whatever. And Leia, poor Leia, like I was texting you guys earlier, poor Leia. At the beginning they pretty much had her in, like, just a string
a
string
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 bean.
bikini.
yeah, string based bikini the whole time. I heard she complained about that, but she, I guess, relented at the point in time. Her
Yeah,
adult self probably would have never allowed it, but her younger self just felt that she had to do that.
Well, I
But
think it was uncomfortable. I mean, it was metal.
yeah,
yeah,
and she was like probably cold, and she was cold and naked at the same time. You
yeah.
know, but yeah, she was fun to look at. Uh, um, but yeah, I mean, it was just crazy how how that, and like T Mitch was saying, you really can't watch this movie as a standalone without, okay, you need to watch at least Return of the Jedi. I'm sorry, Empire Strikes Back, and then really go back and watch A New Hope just to get the whole context of what's going on in this movie, which I think is okay, because if you're telling a story and if your intentions are telling like episodic natures of it, then yeah, you could probably stretch out the story to what they did. Lucas decided he was going to do 3 movies. Now I can't tell if he wanted to have Luke be his sister at the beginning, of A New Hope. You didn't really have any type of telegraphing, at that point in time. I'm sure they made decisions at that, going across like the movies to make it more dramatic and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure though he had Darth Vader being his father at that very beginning, at the beginning of the during A New Hope. I'm sure
Yeah.
he probably had that at least in the back of his mind.
Yeah, it's one of those things, as we all think about, like, in life in general, like the things, if we sat down with George Lucas, we would ask. Because I always go through that, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers do. Like, all the time, I just wonder, like, if I had 10 minutes with him, or, X amount of questions that I can ask him, like, what would those questions be? How would that conversation go? Because obviously there's so much he's going to tell you because he's gag ordered, based on a $6 billion purchase he made. So he's only going to tell you so much of what he really meant. But yeah, just where I really want to know truly where his vision went. I know it changed. Um, and as the EU was created in the expanded universe and legacy content and things like that, what really was your true vision for the
Well,
future?
well, think about what was popular in the 70s and the 80s. Like, think about the films people were really going to.
Right.
So what sort of occurred to me was, like, do you guys ever see Force 10 from Navarro? It's a
No.
it's a World War II movie. John Wayne's in it. There's all kind of like, so they embed American soldiers into Nazi Germany to destroy this giant mountain that has these huge cannons built into it that the Nazis are going to, like, basically eliminate every battleship ever. So they implant Lando, they implant Leia, C3PO, and R2D2 and Luke into this underworld, and they have, how they did that, we don't know. It just happened, right?
What?
It just happened. So everyone liked this spy espionage type of film that was really popular at the time, war movies.
Yeah.
And this was basically a war movie, and it was, a space opera, a space war
Yeah.
movie. So these were all, I mean, we're talking like Black Ops here. You know, Leia was way far embedded into this world, right? As a bounty hunter. Who knew, right? She was great. She walked in with Chewie. Oh, Chewie. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about him. Chewbacca was embedded too. Nobody knew. How did they ever know? They would never know, right? So Lucas took the things that the public wanted and they were watching and they were going to see these films, and he put this into his stuff, and it was dynamite. It was dynamite, and it just looked great on the screen, and nobody expected it. And I think you can take any of these films and watch them and get a charge out of them. I mean, I think you can watch them and know who our heroes are, who our villains are, and what the tension is,
what the tension and conflict is.
And I think you can watch them and enjoy them, and then when you realize, damn, there's like a 1 and a 2. Oh, okay, I'm going to watch those now.
So great point, because while you have like while like I said, in my opinion, I'm not, I don't want to speak for T Mitch, but this story, this Return of the Jedi not being really looked at as like a standalone, you have to watch the other two. I do agree. You get a clear cut by watching this by itself. You get a clear cut rendition of who's the villain, who's the heroes of the story. Everything is right there. So if that's your basis of coming into the story, because really they just drop us into like them escaping or rescuing Han, and then escaping the Jabba's place and everything, and you realize that off the bat that Jabba's the bad guy. And then you see our heroes come and rescue him. Like, okay, who's these people? Okay, yeah, I'm going for them. And if you're cool with that, then yes, you can ride the rest of the story without actually having to mind like the other two. Actually, the other two would just be a bonus for you, because you'll learn like more background flashbacks, if you want to call it, of like of the story. So yes, in that context, yes, I want more from my story, but I can see what you're talking about as far as that.
So DP, you just create a great point, right? So we're saying that you can watch the third film in a trilogy first, and that allows you to go back, because I feel like we're too busy stuck in these current films, and then the prequels are just like a train wreck. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what if when they write these trilogies, you release the final film? I mean, it'd be hard, I guess, to do, but then go back in time.
So put your eggs, the last one first.
Yeah, put your eggs in the basket, because based on what you're telling me, what you're saying, the third one sets up the first two. I mean, New Hope was good, but when you watch this now and you go back, it gives you that that further emphasis to want to watch it.
Yeah, like it's basically the difference between linear story and non-linear storytelling and everything. Lucas chose to, I guess, deal with the stories he told in linear. Where we're actually going in non-linear stuff when we talk about like Clone Wars and Rebels and everything, going backwards and stuff, and who knows where things are going to happen like in the future. We haven't even broached that yet, but the tradition of Star Wars is linear storytelling, going forward, always moving forward to stuff, I think when Lucas decided he wanted to fill in those gaps with like the sequel trilogy, it still told like a linear story, but it had to go all the way back just to fill in. And actually, he created a situation for himself where a lot of other younger, generations of Star Wars fans jumped on, because while we may think, the prequel trilogies were, if you want to call them quote unquote a train wreck, they think those were like, those were their new hopes. Those were their Return of the Jedis and stuff.
Right.
They're looking at the prequel stuff as like, okay, I come up with this. I came up on this as a kid, So when I watch like A New Hope, Return of the Jedi, those are just bonus stuff for me, because still telling the story in a linear fashion, because they saw those, growing up. So
they saw those first.
Yeah, they saw those first,
and they saw them when they were most impressionable too.
Yes.
But DP, DP, this goes to the same point. What is the cult classic? What is the one T-shirt that you see everybody wearing out of that show, out of that series?
Out of the prequel stuff.
Yes, I always see it. I always see a kid, whether it's on a TV show, whether it's down the street. Everybody always has a Revenge of the Sith shirt, which is the
Oh,
third one.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
It's always that one.
yeah.
You always find that T-shirt, whether it's in like your Stranger Things '80s. It's always that shirt where you see
Yeah,
Revenge of the Sith that
yeah,
always catches the eye. And
yeah.
then you go back to watch Clone Wars. You go back to watch The Phantom
Right.
Menace. But
Mhm.
it seems like that third one is,
That's
that
the
Because
one.
know,
that's where Darth Vader was created.
Right.
right?
Born.
And
Yeah.
that's the most important part of this is
Yeah.
Darth Vader has to happen. So how does that happen? We have to see that. And then of course he has kids, but we can move on from that. But Darth Vader, we have to see how Darth Vader is created or how he's energized to really make this whole thing work, because
Mhm.
nobody really cares about Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
right? And I'll be the first to say it's very preachy, it's very political, because that's the old Republic, and that's what we needed to see
We need to see. Right.
to make this all kind of start. We needed to see this Republic fall and the Empire and the Emperor come up from the dust, and then we needed to see Darth Vader created.
I wonder if it was a patience thing back then, because I think it was with me, because all I was waiting for was, okay, when is this guy going to turn into Darth Vader? Do I really have to see him watch him grow up and be a kid, pod racing,
With the pod racer, right?
And then I have to wait like 6, 7 years or whatever before he becomes Darth Vader. Are you serious? I have to wait a whole nother. I have to endure an attack of the clones, because I had no interest in that, back then. But I still, being a nerd, went to see it in the theaters, thinking, okay, it's Star Wars, so maybe they'll entertain me. Oh, he's not turning Darth Vader yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So and then Revenge of the Sith finally. Okay, so he's finally going. I know he's going to turn to Darth Vader in his movie, because they said he was,
and he did,
and he did for 5 minutes. But you go back and watch. Okay, so I see what Lucas was trying to do, and you appreciate it more because you're more mature, you're more into the story and everything, and you see why he told the story the way he told it was. And I think the one thing that consistent thing Lucas always said, Star Wars is a story for kids. It's for kids. So as you keep developing these properties year after year, we may get older, but it's still kids being born into this,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's going to be something. It's going to be another maybe Phantom Menace coming out soon.
They've already done that
to capture those kids, that's trying to get on board.
And then
I mean, may not like it, but
that's going to be our hot take for our review of the sequel trilogy. And to be honest, as you discussed that about generations and catering to, that's really where it went off the wheels. Is you just you tried to capture an audience that didn't exist, really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, DP, you're on board, and then when we go to episode 7, you're just going to sit there, and it was the best out of them, arguably. But I mean,
I don't know. I don't know. Now that I'm talking this out, I'm wondering what generation of kids are going to say, like, okay, I love 7, 8, and 9. That's what I grew up on.
But I don't. But the problem was, if you think financially how this project is played out, nobody has, because who went to see those movies? It was us. The idea of 7, 8, and 9 was to capture our kids, our generation. My kids didn't see it. My kids didn't care. And they made
you're talking about theater stuff, but these shows, these movies are reran on TNT, TBS all the time.
But that's us watching it. I don't think kids watch that. I guarantee they don't.
You're not a kid. I don't know.
But that's what I'm saying. I think
none of the new movies can you watch and just watch the film.
Correct.
Because there's really no beginning and end. They leave you with like this giant hole.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I could agree. But to T. Mitch's point, one of the as I was doing like the convention, a while back, Steel City and everything. One of the most popular characters. I mean, of course, you had like a bunch of Star Wars characters and everything, but it was just amazing how Rey was like still popular. After all this, after years
Mm.
of not having like
Ray Palpatine.
We'll get into that, man. We're going to get into that. We're going to get
Ray
into
Ray
that.
Ray is what she is. They love her. She's a indelible figure
She's a
in
keeper.
like
She's
in
a keeper.
Yeah, she's
yeah,
she's a she's a great actress. She did a great job.
yeah, but the character we're not
Yeah.
talking about so much Daisy Ridley and everything. The character from the from
Come on.
what they interpret as far as the movies. From the comics to I'm sure they're going to come out with some sort of animated stuff with them three, at some point.
She's coming back. If you guys have been reading the press releases that she signed on, so there will be
I mean,
other.
and of course, because all these big time actors, they realize that not enough movies are going around for them, to act in.
Well,
So
think about it though, as you're saying, DP. And you always talked about this. How long does it take to make a motion picture? 9 months filming and then 3 months editing. Plus, you have to do your tours. These Disney Plus series, these actors are on set for what, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. So
yeah,
you get paid similar money now as we're seeing these checks roll out, and you're only on set for 12 weeks instead of a whole year, and you have to fly to Dubai, to here, to there, and
yeah.
a lot of this stuff is done in house in local sets. So.
But,
Mhm.
but
Um,
but more than anything, you got movie theaters nowadays. You're only going to the show to see like a blockbuster. Other than that,
right.
if you're going to the show for other movies, you really have to be a cinephile to go see like
Yeah.
non-spectacle blockbusters and stuff.
Yeah.
With the pandemic and everything going on, most people, the only movies I've seen like in the past 2 years, I should say, is probably Shang-Chi, Black Widow,
The Batman.
the Batman,
No.
and Spider-Man. I haven't seen
Yeah.
anything outside of genre, superhero, sci-fi genre type stuff. Not no romantic comedies, not
Right.
any type of horror movies or anything like that. I've not gone to see anything else besides superhero or Star Wars stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean that's another great point. I mean, as we're discussing this, and and you touch on it, the origin of Darth Vader. It's great how we can have these discussions with everybody, ourselves included, and yet we roll into the beginning of that story of
Yeah,
Darth Vader. As we go into Obi-Wan. So
yeah,
it's really good how we have this discussion today, and it's going to roll directly into us seeing as we found out a young Vader as he becomes. You know, basically a Sith apprentice at this point because he's still young. He's still learning his body. I guess he's still in a meditation, so he still has physical scarring. So I think that's a great segue into it. And if anything, this Obi-Wan series kind of is that 3.5, if you will, that we were kind of asking about as three ended. It's like that little bit extra that you wanted that maybe we didn't get.
mhm,
Um, so yeah, I'm very excited for that. Very excited to see where that takes us. Into 4, 5, and 6, and then you know I guess this would be our 6.5. Is this whole era we're in now? Um, Very interesting. I don't know if you guys caught it as we're in this discussion, but Cameron Monaghan was just at Galaxy's Edge. As you know, he's a can
man, if
he's a
if he ever got in a series or a movie, man,
so his character on the game Fallen Order Cal Kestis
yeah,
is a canon character. So it'll come out for, I believe it might be out now, but his lightsaber, that broken one that's cool in the game, is the next legacy lightsaber sold at Galaxy's Edge. So I can tell you that he's been in talks with the Lucasfilm about
That would be
where he'll
cool.
fall in.
okay,
He's in this timeline, so
okay. Oh, that would be awesome if he showed up in. Wow,
I mean
wow,
he's in the timeline of Obi-Wan. He was there. That's his timeline.
yeah,
Um, and he's one of the Jedi that are hunted by the Inquisitors. So yeah,
mm,
this is his timeline.
that'd be
It's kind of
great.
weird that they released those photos today about
Mhm,
him being there and his lightsaber coming out with this show coming out, and
mhm,
and obviously celebrations coming up. So I don't know. It's kind of coincidental because Disney doesn't leak things like that and let things come out public, but
yeah.
that's kind of funny as we talk about this young Vader journey. And DP, I know you talk about finite things, so I want to get you and Ken's kind of thoughts on this. With us doing this series, in learning about a young Vader, and I know I've asked for it. Do you think this will be enough? As we just finish up episode 6, if we do the Obi-Wan series, do we need a Vader series still? Because I know it's something I wanted, but I believe we'll see him on Mustafar here,
De-
and
Definitely need a deep dive into Vader.
you think?
Like, yeah, I want to see. So Obi-Wan leaves him on the shores of Mustafar. I want to see that. I want to see that part. I want to see the Emperor working with his apprentice. You know, I just want to see that timeline, however many years that is, the training, the because he's got to pull him back. He's got to mentally rebuild him, and he's got to physically rebuild him, right? I mean, he's just a torso and a head. I mean, there's nothing there. He has to bring him back. I want to see that relationship. I mean, how powerful would that be?
That'd be a really interesting thing. I'm trying to just figure out how compelling it would be because you just
Right.
got evil with evil, and like,
That's
I
great.
I understand. Now, if they had the balls to tell that type of story, I'm all in. I'm all in. I'm game. Tell that story. But I'm just trying to figure out how compelling it would be when when you have him just slowly descend to that dark side, and he just keeps going that route. And what is that happy? It's okay if you're talking about storytelling 101 and it has to have a happy ending. Where's the happy ending in that? We know where Darth Vader is going. We know how evil he can be. So when you tell that story, it's going to be nothing but sadness, throughout like the whole thing, unless they could tell some sort of side story or something that sort of like bridges that, maybe a younger Anakin,
Well, there's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be him, and he's always going to be thinking about his wife. He's always going to be thinking about his son that he knows he knows she was pregnant,
right,
and he knows he
right.
he
Well, maybe
knows that happened.
to can fill in those gaps. I'd just be interested to see how they would do it.
So would we get flashbacks? Would we get flashbacks of like him and Padme, like their relationship?
Right.
So that would be positive. That would make you
Now,
happy, right?
You know what, Ken? I can dig that because I think if you tell that type of story, I think you could tell it better than how it was told back in the prequel trilogy, when with the actors and actresses being a lot better I just think that a lot better dialogue could be written for them. Maybe if you just put Filoni on it, I mean, just throw him in there, and just have him do the thing, do his magic and everything. But I think you might have something there if you tell it like that.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing I've always discussed. I always wanted to see Sith stories, but as you're saying, I mean, it literally has to be an all-out, almost like the kind of the Batman. You're kind of like anti-hero type because you can't have, like you're saying, some just like dark story where they're just hacked. I mean, they can. You had your Rogue One ending to where there was, your kamikaze type sacrifice for the greater good, but in the Sith there is no really sacrifice for the greater good necessarily. So yeah, it would be an interesting, take, which would be leading to another interesting series. I don't know how, as you're saying, you would pull that off if they were to go a Obi-Wan season 2 and they were just give him kind of like they did with the Book of Boba, maybe give Vader his 3 episodes, kind of like we done with Din, kind of taking his 2 episodes during the series and maybe run with it like that, may pull it off. But yeah, to give him his own show, now that I think about it, it would have to be half flashback, and then then we're rewriting, as DP says, and we don't want to do that. We're rewriting the past and retconning things, and so
Well,
yeah,
I
that
mean, you can still add elements because there's spots and stuff that the sequel trilogies didn't tell. So just tell some of those more intimate type, moments that him and Padme may have had that are better written. That you could get
Maybe better acting.
better
So,
attitude and better perspective.
do you think there needs to be a deeper dive into the jealousy of Obi-Wan as he kind of loses her? Because remember, there was like the love triangle, right? You
Mm-hmm.
think they dive into that a little more and kind of Because I mean, who knows? I mean, this guy's broken. He lost his girlfriend. He lost his best friend.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, his girlfriend who he thought he was going to get got pregnant. I mean, this guy is just like he's broken. You know, so as we said, we lead into this series. You know, I think the only time he smiled was the Force Ghost that Luke didn't get to see, as they were happy of
Mm.
at the end of Return of the Jedi, which
Turn his eye, turn his head there and everything. Huh? That's interesting. Yeah.
that is super interesting because, as we know, Luke couldn't see Force Ghosts. So did he? He senses them. That's the only thing that kind of opens a weird door. Who left a sour taste?
Yeah.
As you see the end of Return of the Jedi.
That's being, I guess, nitpicky.
Well, it's nitpicky now. It wasn't nitpicky then because obviously we didn't understand the fact of not being able to see Force Ghosts and this and that. So
yeah.
You know,
who was in that original spot before Anakin? I forgot who. What?
Sebastian Shaw.
Huh. Okay.
So he was the original face of Vader when Luke took his helmet off.
Yeah.
Luke took Darth Vader's helmet off on the Death Star.
Mm-hmm.
Moments before it was destroyed. It was a British actor, Sebastian Shaw, who he was renowned internationally. He was a Shakespearean actor. I mean, he was up there with James Earl Jones. So the way they cast this character of Darth Vader, there were multiple people that made this thing live.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch one of the two versions that I watched, you see Alec Guinness, Sebastian Shaw, and Yoda as the ghosts. And then in the special edition, what the hell did they call it? It wasn't the special edition. It was
remastered.
They put, when 1, 2, and 3 came out, Revenge of the Sith came out, they put Anakin. They put Hayden.
That's when they let, I think, who forgot him, THX made those remastered ones. That's when like THX was like the big thing in cinema and in doing it. Yeah.
So if you see the original cut of Return of the Jedi, you'll see the original faces that were these folks. Empire Strikes Back, too, Ian McDiarmid was not the face of the Emperor originally. And I don't know who it was who was the hologram, but it wasn't him.
Okay. Huh.
They redid him. They redid the movies, and they put him in as the face of the Emperor. So in Return of the Jedi, it was Ian McDiarmid that was the Emperor, but in Empire Strikes Back, it wasn't. It was a different actor. I don't know what the cat's name was that did the hologram version.
What about those that end scene, the little montage scenes with them going like back and forth from different areas with everybody cheering and stuff? That looked like digitally enhanced.
Yeah, and that wasn't there.
That wasn't.
That was never there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All we saw was the Ewoks celebrating.
We saw that in the fireworks on the planet there,
and that was it.
That was it. Okay.
We saw a very brief, quick cut to Coruscant where they were pulling the statue down of the Emperor. And that was it in the original cut. Now in the special edition or the digitally remastered, whatever, they cut to Tatooine.
Yeah.
They cut to Coruscant. They cut to multiple other planets and scenes of celebrating. But in the original, it was just Endor and a quick cut to Coruscant.
Interesting.
So, real quick, I just want to make sure we don't forget to talk about the Rancor. The Rancor ties together the Book of Boba Fett.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so Luke kills the Rancor. Terrible. Because here's this creature that really isn't as bad as we think it is.
Oh, right.
It's just pissed off. And do we know why the Rancor Keeper, why he's so sad? This is a test. I want the biggest nerd out there that's listening to us to text back, message back. I don't know. I'm from the
nerd encyclopedia, guys.
Yeah, right.
I want to know if anybody knows why the Rancor Keeper is so sad that his pet has been killed. It's a real question with a real answer. And if anybody can text that back to me, I'm gonna throw you I don't know, something.
A no prize, as Stanley used to say, you know.
You'll get a big nerd, some sort of big nerd vote or something. I want to hear it. I want to hear somebody say what the answer is, because I know what the answer is, and it's for real.
All right, that's a teaser for next.
Yeah, you've heard. Everybody has heard it here, so definitely. As we finish this off real quick, as you said, the thing I took away from this is that final battle. I mean, the raids and Luke. I mean, how about that lightsaber action, the strokes? I mean, he's striking down on his father, and then it's that last that
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 was
kind of
probably the
when
most pure emotion I've seen him through like the whole trilogy. Let me stop.
that's where I really, as you said, DP. That's where kind of like it gets lost, and then this whole aura of the legend of Luke Skywalker begins because you know nobody really there's no recollection of him, and this is kind of where it's into the air of this wasn't even this. You know what I mean? This wasn't even in a full powered, Luke Skywalker. I mean, at this time they're calling him a Jedi Knight. He's not a Jedi Knight yet. He's still like a raw Padawan. So this is
yet
like
they title it Return of the Jedi.
yeah.
This is it right here, huh? Okay.
Well, I mean, it's a return of. I mean, I guess a lost society. Right? So yeah. I mean that emotion towards that final fight was, as you said, that kind of saved the movie for me. I mean, that was like, the action.
Didn't you like when R2 jettisoned the handle up into
Of course,
the air?
yeah, right.
You were like,
What's
gonna happen
wonder
now?
how
I mean, he
many
caught it, and it was. I mean, it was like right out of the gate. It was the first time you saw a lightsaber in the movie, first of all,
right.
And then he was doing his thing. I mean, it was a great. I mean, he held his own. It was one dude against an army. I mean, there wasn't really anyone helping him.
And didn't they change that scene on Jabba's ship from the original to the ones we've seen, right? When he kind of like hits the backpack of Boba and he kind of spirals into the Sarlacc. Was that the same scene throughout, or did they change a little bit of that?
No, that was the same. When Han backs up, he's like, Boba Fett, where?
Yeah.
And he backs up and he hits his jetpack.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been that way forever. But you never knew. Now we know. Now we know, right? We know what that whole relationship was, and we know what happened next. So Return of the Jedi is a great watch for someone that loves the new universe.
Right.
The new, like the Book of Boba Fett, Mandalorian. I mean, watch Return of the Jedi because you're going to see where all this comes together.
And as we said, with everybody watching this and reviewing this with us, this ties right into the Obi-Wan series because this is really the birth.
Wait.
Yeah, this is going to be the birth of Darth Vader, and then we see really the end, the culmination of Vader's legacy, as you will, and his rebirth into Anakin. So it's kind of like that whole finite circle, as we said, storytelling, as DP always says, and how no matter how Lucas spins his prism, his Rubik's cube, the colors always match up. I can't get over how these stories automatically just tie into every time you spin this cube. It literally the colors find a way to match up. And we talk about how big the Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and how sometimes we feel like it may be getting stretched in certain places, but the Star Wars story, out of that little core, we can spin it so many times, and it's always the same colors, regardless.
They have that story group, that Star Wars story group. That's the end all. That's the beginning, middle, and the end. If you're going to come in the universe and tell a story, you have to go put everything through the story group first to make sure it makes sense, because that's the most important thing. If I get from any fans that watch this thing and I have been with this thing for so long, it has to make sense. Because the universe is what it is. Until they start telling stories in the future, everything that you're going to deal with these different timelines has to make sense from each one thing to the next. It's amazing how they flip it, because they have comics, they have like the cartoons, they have like the video game stuff. It all has to still make sense. That's crazy.
It does. And it's funny, I was just in a comic book shop 2 days ago, and real big comic book guy, it was raving about that High Republic comic. I guess they delayed the second edition till next year, he said, but I guess that comic for the High Republic is a really, really good read. So
Yeah, I
for
heard about that.
all our reviewers out there who still read, please keep reading and definitely check out that High Republic comic. But before we get into where we're going for the next couple weeks here, as far as some of our things moving forward, I just want to give a couple minutes to our guy, DP, who has his own sci-fi project going on. And just for our newer viewers here who don't understand, could you just go give us a couple minutes of what you have going on personally and kind of delve into that?
Yeah, the theme of thieves, people. So make sure that if you've been watching me for so long, I've been like writing comics. I'm a comic writer. I have a project with my man Dan Ekus and Alex Zieff. It's called The Theme of Thieves. It's about two teams and a mysterious man in a red suit who travel back in time, and they're traveling through time to try to solve the mystery of why people are disappearing in the present. So that's the premise. I've got some really good, deep dive stuff into like politics, how disappearing people, randomly disappearing people affect like religion, how it affects like society. In the meantime, just like having like hijinks and adventures. If you like Lost, if you like The Wire, if you like Quantum Leap, which is like three of my favorite shows of all time, this is what my comic series is a mixture of. So you can go to themeofthieves.com and basically purchase the first issue. I got the second issue coming out soon, so you'll be able to purchase that soon enough. Themeofthieves.com. I will have that in the link after we are done.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think we all read that first. I remember when I was talking to you when I read that first one, man. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody because I want everybody to support it, but I mean, for somebody, I couldn't believe you wrote that, man. I know you're talented, but that was really, really, really good. That's just not me tooting your horn, I'm just giving in your flowers because I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I mean, it's nice
Appreciate
to see that, fellow nerds, we all can follow our dreams. I know a lot of times we talked about, in our circle about like, why if we were to deep fake a Star Wars, if we were to rewrite our own, kind of script, what it would be like. And that's the fun thing about, Neurocyclopedia, Carbonite Bound BS, any of our different platforms we talk about things on is it's that discussion we have, but it gives us the ability to dream, right? I mean, that's what
it. Yeah.
Lucas wanted us to be, a
Yep.
story about family, a story about,
Yep.
friendship, but also the ability to dream and to go overcome these things as we saw Luke did, and his father overcoming his,
Mhm.
and it's whether it be political, whether it be religion, regardless of how you view these, I mean, it's a person overcoming sacrifice. Anakin, made a horrible decision. Some people say he killed his wife, drove her to sadness, whatever, but he had to live with that. And as we find out at the end, there's always redemption, even when there's
Mm-hmm.
loss. So this Star Wars story, and we talk about it. This is the first time I was going over it. It really is like the basis for modern sci-fi. This was really that, as Ken said, transcended time, and it still does.
It's like I said the last podcast we were near Empire. You see like a lot of tropes. You see a lot of the tropes that started from this. I see where it came from. The way the bad guys act, the way that they overcome certain things. The heroes overcome certain things. And sure, it was always in elements in storytelling.
Right.
Period. But Star Wars, I see specifically. I'm thinking, I just in back of my mind, I'm thinking like Transformers, the movie, how much they bit off Star Wars to tell with Unicron and Optimus and like Rodimus Prime. He was like the Luke Skywalker of that story, and like the Junkions and all that crazy stuff. It was how a lot of cartoons have took those basic elements of Star Wars from Thundercats, Silverhawk, all those cartoons from the 80s, and really took all their cues from Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
the hero's journey, and the villain's plight,
Right.
and at the end, the hero always wins.
Yep.
There's always like a lesson to be taught, within those elements. So yeah, it was a great way to start off the 80s, with the Star Wars starting in like 77, but and to just carry like that whole decade period.
Yeah, and remember, Lucas wasn't really making anything up. He was just putting everything that we already knew into a different context.
Right.
Yeah, that's what every great storyteller does. Like bites off of different stuff and just puts it into the gumbo.
Yep. Why reinvent the wheel when it's already there? I mean, you can just put that wheel into a different context. You could just so he took a Western, he took the Old West, he took the we like to say the cliffhangers, that type of genre, and put it in outer space. And outer space is neutral.
Yeah.
Outer space isn't racist. It's not in any way against anyone because of their beliefs. Outer space is completely neutral. Right?
Do anything and still tell your story and have it relate.
100%. And as long as you have the basis of what we live on, good, evil, decisions that are made, I mean, you can have a story. And that's all he did. He just wanted to take a story and sort of inject it with new life. And he did. I mean, Lucas did something that I don't think any other story writer has ever been able to accomplish. And everyone that followed and preceded him is just running along his same path. I mean, as far as and I'm talking from I'm devoted. I mean, there isn't anything about Star Wars that I will ever tell you is bad. That's just the way I am. I came into it, you guys brought me in as I don't want to say super fan because I don't know everything, but I was there at the beginning when this thing was born.
Yeah.
So
you got a great perspective of it.
Yeah, for me, this is I just want to see everything work. I want to see it fit. I want to see it make sense. I don't want anyone talking bad about it because it's like my family. It's like my heart. So when I hear people say, I hated Phantom Menace, I want to know why. Why? It's Star Wars. And it really has the same vibe as original Star Wars and the new Star Wars. And it really hurt me to think, you know what? I really don't think he should have killed Han. But whatever. And I don't know who Ben is, but whatever.
I think that'll be interesting, Ken. I think that'll be interesting. Those are going to be some interesting reviews.
I'm just too emotional about the whole thing. So you
can't wait. It's the sequel trilogy coming up, guys.
It's going to be you heard it. We're hearing. I'm telling you now, guys. I will not hold back. There's no holding back.
Can't wait.
I can't wait to watch. And I'll just be honest. Seven's going to be good. I like 7. 7, I was sold within the first 5 minutes, and we'll figure out why. But the first 5 minutes made the movie for me, and then after that, we kind of forgot what made it cool, in my opinion. You see something, and you're like, "Oh my god, this is going to be it," and then that's it. But you've heard it from DP. We're diving into in most people's eyes, the most controversial part of Star Wars, the Disney Star Wars, as you will, the full Disney. This is Disney's, right? I mean, they've changed the scripts. It's been duly noted, and it's been proven that they rewrote scripts. They've changed George's ideas, so this is, Disney's sword to fall on. So, as you heard from DP, guys, we're going to dive into episode 7. And we'll go from there.
Next week.
Next week, guys. Definitely answer Ken's question, somebody, please. To win this
Rancor Keeper. Why was he so upset? The only time we saw tears in Star Wars, he cried.
That's you guys' homework for next week.
I want to know. Someone got to tell me.
Definitely. And until next week, guys, this is the way.
This is the way.
We don't have our shout out to Steel City Hitch in the house, Steel